Mother's love is selfless and all-forgiving. For most women, children are the meaning of life. But there are those for whom they become a weapon of revenge. Deborah Green was born on February 28, 1951 in Illinois. She was a very developed child, with amazing intellectual abilities. At the age of 3, the girl was already learning to read and write, and she did it well. At school, Deborah was an excellent student, often took part in various events. She was predicted a great future. Everyone was sure that she would achieve incredible success in life. Deborah received a medical degree. During her studies, the girl met engineer Deborah Green. They quickly began a romantic relationship. After only a few months they decided to get married, but the marriage did not last long. Deborah said that the reason for the divorce was the incompatibility of characters. They did not have common interests, and they parted on a friendly note. But, according to Dwayne, the girl just used him. He paid for her education, and Deborah filed for divorce immediately after she received her diploma. The girl was not alone for long. Pretty quickly, she began an affair with 20-year-old Michael Farrar. He was in his last year of medical school. Michael admired Deborah's intellect, activity and perseverance. The only thing that bothered him in his chosen one was an explosive character. She could unbalance any little thing. The girl began to scream and throw things. It was difficult to calm her down, but Michael succeeded. For Deborah, he became a reliable support. The couple married on May 26, 1979 and moved to Cincinnati, Ohio. Deborah had health problems, including frequent migraines, mood swings, insomnia. She took many medications. Despite this, the girl decided to give birth to a child, although the doctors advised her to wait until her state of health returned to normal. So in 1982, Timothy was born. 3 years later, Deborah gave birth to a daughter, Kate. At that time, the couple were already running their own medical practice. Michael was a successful cardiologist and Deborah was an oncologist. In 1988, the girl again went on maternity leave. On December 13 she gave birth to another daughter, who was named Kelly. Deborah's friends and acquaintances called her a good mother. She was engaged in raising children, helped with their studies, encouraged their interests and hobbies. When the 2 older children grew up, the couple placed them in a private school Pembroke Hill in Kansas City. Each of them attended additional classes. Timothy played football and hockey, and Kate studied ballet at a dance school. Kelly's youngest daughter attended preschool. Deborah always and everywhere accompanied her children. She took them to school, to additional classes and took them home. Most parents admired the woman, her energy and immense love for children. But there were those who believed that Deborah was overprotective of the children and demanded too much from them. After her 3rd maternity leave, Deborah's medical career began to unravel. The woman was hampered by health problems that worsened after 3 pregnancies. She began working only a few hours, and most of the time she was a housewife. Deborah's colleagues noticed a change in Deborah's character and behavior. It was difficult to work with her. She became irritable, often broke down, and behaved insensitively towards patients. Michael decently earned and could fully provide for his family. He insisted that Deborah pay more attention to her health and family, and not worry about work, but she did not want to listen to him. In addition, while at work, Deborah could see her husband more often. She was very jealous. Michael and Deborah's marriage has never been perfect. The man said that his wife lacked femininity and tenderness. They never expressed their love for him in words, even at the time when their relationship was just beginning. Also, the woman often lost her temper. At the slightest difficulty, she fell into hysterics or became enraged. She could break things, harm herself and others. During such episodes, she did not care where she was and whether there were people nearby. This behavior may have been due to Deborah taking large amounts of medication to deal with her long-standing health problems. And some of them she appointed herself. These were sedatives and strong painkillers that were available only by prescription. She needed them in order to cope with the pain, which did not subside after the operation performed on her arm. Also, the woman began to drink often. In the early 90s, the couple moved away from each other. Michael began to often linger at work in order to deal less with his wife's annoyance. Quarrels between spouses were daily. Moreover, Deborah often drew children into them, saying what their father was wrong about. Because of this, the children gradually began to change their attitude towards their father. At some point, they stopped listening to him at all. Michael was no longer an authority for them. The eldest son Timothy often entered into verbal and physical conflicts with his father. In 1994, Michael asked Deborah for a divorce. The woman reacted very violently to this, screaming, throwing things and accusing her of cheating. The couple separated and lived separately for 4 months. The man did not file for divorce. He decided to improve relations with his wife, who also wanted to save the family. They started living together again. Michael began to spend more time at home than at work. And Deborah tried to be a good wife and housewife. The idyll did not last long. A few months later, the quarrels resumed, and the couple began to behave as before. To escape from everyday life, they decided to go on a family trip to Peru, sponsored by Pembroke Hill School. Other families were also involved. During this trip, Michael met Margaret Hacker. She was married to an anesthesiologist, and was also unhappy with her marriage. After returning from Peru, Michael and Margaret began to secretly meet. Soon the man again asked Deborah for a divorce and spoke about the affair with Margaret. This led to a loud scandal. This time, Michael filed for divorce, but was in no hurry to leave the family home. Deborah began to live in a separate room. She often got drunk and started to quarrel. The man was afraid to leave her alone with the children. The woman barely coped with household chores and the routine of children. Suddenly, Michael fell ill. He suffered for several days with constant nausea, vomiting and diarrhea. He was hospitalized and diagnosed with poisoning, which was associated with a trip to Peru. Michael's condition was critical, but the doctors managed to help him. After being discharged from the hospital, the man returned to his family, where Deborah took care of him. On the first night after being discharged, Michael became ill again. The next morning he went to the hospital. This happened 3 times. Every time the man returned home, he became ill. After a large number of tests, the doctors thought that the symptoms could be caused by a lot of stress due to the upcoming divorce. But Michael's mistress, Margaret, believed that Deborah was poisoning him. After all, in the hospital he got better, and at home his condition immediately worsened. The man searched his wife's belongings and found a bag of castor seeds in them. They contain the poisonous substance ricin, the consumption of which leads to a painful death. Once in the body, the substance attacks all the cells of the gastrointestinal tract. Dehydration rapidly develops, blood pressure drops rapidly, and without medical assistance, a person quickly dies. It is difficult to identify poison, especially if it comes in a small dose. Michael spoke about his discovery and suspicions of poisoning Deborah. At first she said that she wanted to take up gardening, but after the onslaught, she replied that she had bought seeds for suicide. When the woman once again got drunk and made a scandal, behaved inappropriately, rushed at him and threatened, Michael called the police and an ambulance. He insisted that Deborah needed psychiatric help. She was taken to the hospital. The woman agreed to undergo an examination and accept the help of doctors, but a few hours later she fled from the department. She was found and brought back to the hospital. Deborah was diagnosed with bipolar disorder with suicidal impulses. She was prescribed tranquilizers and sedatives. The woman was discharged after 4 days. During this time, Michael found out that his condition could indeed be caused by ricin, which is found in castor beans. He came to the conclusion that his wife tried to kill him. When Deborah returned home, Michael moved out. They began to live separately again. The divorce was about to take place. October 23, 1995. Michael has a week off. He spent most of the day with Margaret. In the afternoon, the man met with the children, and went with them to a football match, in which the eldest son Timothy played. In the evening, at about 9 o'clock, Michael brought the children home to their mother, and went to dinner with Margaret. The man arrived at his rented apartment after 11 p.m. Soon Deborah called him. She was clearly not in a sober state. The conversation turned into a heated quarrel. After mutual accusations and insults, Michael said that he did not want to communicate with her while she was in this state, and hung up. At 1:30 in the morning, the bell rang again in the man's apartment. It was a neighbor who lived near Deborah's house. He reported the fire. Michael immediately went to the house. Arriving at the scene, the man found Deborah and 10-year-old daughter Ketty. They were in nightgowns. 13-year-old Timothy and 6-year-old Kelly could not be saved. After the fire was extinguished, the children were found in their bedrooms. They suffocated from carbon monoxide. All family members were taken to the police station to clarify the circumstances. During the interrogation, Deborah told the following. After dinner, everyone went to their rooms. The woman drank a little before going to bed, talked to Michael on the phone and fell asleep. She was soon awakened by the sound of an alarm. The woman thought that this was a false signal of the security system. The alarm sometimes worked on dogs. She tried turning off the siren on the control box in the bedroom, but it didn't work. Deborah opened the door and saw smoke in the hallway. She realized it was the fire alarm. The woman went out onto the terrace and heard that her son Timothy was calling the rescue service and asking what he should do. Deborah heard this and told her son to stay in the room and wait for the firemen to arrive. And at that time she herself ran to a neighbor to call 911. Then Deborah returned to the house and saw Katie climb out through the bedroom window on the second floor. The girl climbed onto the roof of the garage. Deborah yelled at Katie to jump down. The girl did so and landed right in front of her mother. As it turned out later, the woman did not even try to catch her daughter in order to soften the fall. The detective who conducted the interrogation noticed that Deborah was very calm. She did not cry, and sometimes even smiled when she told about what had happened. Couldn't put my actions that night in chronological order. The woman did not remember what and at what time she did. Even at the scene of the fire, when it was not known that 2 children had died, Deborah spoke of them in the past tense. After it became known that the children were not alive, the woman was first upset, and then began to shout at the police that the firefighters had not done enough to save them, demanded financial compensation for the children and the burned house. During interrogation, Michael spoke about a quarrel that occurred on the eve of the fire. He mentioned that Deborah was very worried about her financial situation. She was afraid of being left without financial support after the divorce. The man suggested that the wife could set fire to the house to get insurance, and also told that she tried to poison him with ricin. In the early morning after interrogation, the spouses were released. The police launched an investigation at the scene. Investigators determined that arson was the cause of the fire. They found traces of a flammable liquid that was on the first and second floors. It was poured in such a way that the flames blocked the stairs to the first floor, affected the children's bedrooms located on the second floor, but did not reach Deborah's room. Also, 2 more ignition sources were found that were not related to the main one. It can be assumed that someone spilled the liquid in several places and set fire to it to burn the whole house, in an attempt to figure out who might have done it. Detectives seized Michael and Deborah's clothes they were wearing at the time of the fire, and took samples of their hair. The experts said that the hair arsonists definitely had to suffer. Nothing was discovered until several interesting facts were revealed. When Deborah ran to the neighbors to call the emergency service, her hair was wet, and during the investigation she cut her hair twice. This behavior was suspicious. She said that she did not see the fire in the house. When she opened the door of her bedroom, there was only smoke. Deborah was again called in for questioning. Long legal proceedings began, during which it was still possible to prove that Deborah had committed the arson. Although at first her defense tried to accuse the deceased Timothy of arson. Allegedly, he wished his father death and, out of revenge, set fire to the house. It was also proven that Deborah bought castor bean seeds in order to get rid of her husband. She regularly put poison in his food. The woman could no longer resist hard evidence against her, and on April 17, 1996, she made a deal with the court. Initially, they wanted to sentence her to death, but, thanks to a voluntary deal, the woman received 2 40-year prison terms without the possibility of parole. But she will still be able to petition for a retrial in 2035. But this is unlikely to happen. At the moment, the woman is 70 years old. While imprisoned, Deborah continues to insist on her innocence. She wrote letters to her ex-husband Michael and daughter Kate. Each time the story has changed. She claimed that it was Margaret who set fire to the house. Then she wrote that she did not remember anything, as she had taken a lot of medicine that evening. A psychological and psychiatric examination confirmed Deborah's sanity. Michael's relationship with his daughter Kate did not work out. She was angry with her father and blamed him for everything. Michael's parents took custody of the girl.